Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Now, it's always my pleasure to review a book which I use regularly in court, one which I treasure and one which I find very helpful with everything that I do. And I know that my colleagues at the family bar and also all those involved in other ways as solicitors and advisors in family law matters will recognise, as the judiciary do, that this is the preeminent work. It's the Red Book. And what I'm looking at today is the Red Book, or Family Court Practice 2015, as a review, which of course comes to us from Family Law, which is the imprint of Jordan's publishing. Editor-in-Chief is Lord Wilson of Culworth. A very large number of people are involved in this book. There's nothing better than it, in my view. It's what we use in court, it's what you will see in every main court, and it remains the top-notch book. So what's new for this year? Quite a lot. I'm going to show you a bit about the book and we'll give you our review for the 2015 edition, which Elizabeth and I have written. We've given as our review title the essential materials practitioners need to practice in the family court. Bit of a sort of statement of the obvious in some respects, but that's exactly what you've got here. It's available, of course, as a hardback and as a PDF. Let's have a look at the book. Here it is again, as usual. It's a heavy, very heavy book. Remember that that's the front, that's the spine, there's nothing on the back, but the spine gives you the information about who has been involved in this. You can see the shaded areas where you can find, I was looking the other day for something, you can find there very quickly things like the family procedure rules and so forth. Front inside cover calendars. The back again has some summaries of fees, which are again very, very important. You've also got behind that you get to the main index, which is here when I get to it, and you can see again we're talking of well over 3,000 pages, a very, very detailed index, which I do find very helpful to find things very quickly. The index runs on for a very long time. And then you've got all the various parts that make up the book. Right at the end, for instance, is the Part 6 on European material for the international side. Then at the front, the paper's very thin. Do remember that, especially this, because it's a very heavy book. I mean, there's no question about it. There's a huge amount of work in it. There is the front page. And then after that, we get into the detail. And there's some things I want to show you. I'd like to I can't mention all the people involved, but all of them in their own way. I'd like to thank very much indeed for the tremendous learning, knowledge, skill and everything else that they've given to produce this for us. We can't do the job without having this information readily available. And Mrs. Justice Bracewell, when introducing this book, gave a very nice preface right at the beginning. All those years ago, 2001, it seems like such a long time ago. There we go. This is another foreword from 2008, which is the Right Honourable Lord Justice Wilson, Nicholas Wilson, and he is currently the editor. Then we get in to the introduction and the usual whinging about the cuts and everything else, which is to be expected, all the other things, because the fact is that there's a bit of justification for the whinging from Anthony Cleary, dated May. He has a lot to say, and I'm afraid a lot of what he says is true, because we have to take the brunt of it in court from what has happened. However, whether it's right or wrong, we have to face the reality. They are the contents, which is a nice, straightforward statement of what's actually in here with the 6 parts, all the other stuff that you expect, calendar, table of statutes, table of statutory instruments, table of cases, notes on the procedural guides. Very, very important, a huge amount of information there, which is to assist. Let me just go back a little bit, because what you do have here are the actual procedural guide contents right at the beginning. I think that's quite important, because it depends very much on what the issue is that you're looking at, because you do need to know how this book is structured. So this is part 1, and you can see again the shading there, which is part 1. Then you go into part 2, which is the statutes, and there's quite a lot. You see the shading again for all the statutes. Part 3 we then get into the FPR itself. There we go, there. This is not the best way of showing you this book, but at least you get some idea if you're new to it as to what's in it. Part 4 is then the statutory instruments. Again, the shading area there, and then you can see the statutory instruments. Then part 5 is practice guidelines, guidance, the PGs, and then the European material at the end. Now that's a quick run through the book. As I say, it's an important book. I treasure it. I always look at it. I actually, probably some people would say I should get a life, but I actually quite enjoy reading it to see what is happening, to know my way around it. It's the same with the Green Book, which I have over here. You've got to know your way around the practice books today in a way when I was called to the bar all those years ago wasn't perhaps quite as important in some respects as it is today. Everything is very much the written advocacy. You've got to know your way around the rules, the PGs, the protocols and everything else. This book actually is the ultimate statement of it. I know the judges can't do without it. At the end of the day, let's face it, we can't possibly know everything about the law, but this is where the law and the practice and what we do is actually contained, and that's the best we can do until anything else comes along. But thank you to all concerned, and this is what we say about the book. Familiarly known as the Red Book, and remember there's the Red Book Plus and other materials to go with this, but I'm only dealing with the Red Book today. It's known as the Red Book. The Family Court Practice, with its annual updates, has remained reassuringly authoritative and reliable since it was first published in 1993, a time frame in which civil procedure for family work has undergone considerable change. It's completely changed from what I studied decades ago when I did my LLB, and then didn't know whether I might do much family law, but I did as a barrister to start with, and I have all the way through. And I've seen really very, very big changes taking place. So scarcely a family lawyer or family court judge is ever going to be without this book today. And it's now entered the realm of the tried and true, having established itself as the definitive reference on family proceedings at every level of court. And it is the book you will always see in court. It's been published, as I've indicated, by the family law IMPRINT of Jordan Publishing Limited, based in Bristol. And this latest edition for 2015 reflects, as you would expect, the continuing disquiet concerning the diminution or often the entire elimination of legal aid with its attendant problems. And we see that in the newspapers on a daily basis because of the problems we are getting in the court system, which frankly were quite clearly going to take place because of the big increases that we were seeing as legal aid was changing with the number of litigants in person, and that has rocketed, especially in the family jurisdiction. And we know about it, and we've got to do something about it. And of course, what is in addition is there are bottlenecks and delays in courts, in the court, resulting from the proliferation of litigants in person, these unrepresented parties, and the almost 50% increase in the time taken up to complete court hearings. Now, as you know, the CPR have reinforced the powers that the court can have concerning what to do with unrepresented persons, and the like position is the case in the family jurisdiction as well, and rightly too, because the judge has to have quite substantial powers to ask questions when it's quite clear that the unrepresented parties are getting out of their depth, which is not difficult to happen in any case these days. But it is precisely in trying times like these that practitioners like you will continue to rely on the trusty Red Book to provide the essential materials you need to practice in the family court. And there is much that's new in this new edition for 2015, too much to enumerate obviously in this short review. But if you don't have the edition to hand, you will miss a lot. New procedural guides, for example, and the latest amendments to the FPI, including the latest rules on habeas corpus, as topical and relevant as ever, going all centuries back. Latest amendments to CPR also include the Part the new part 87, which is the application for the writ of habeas corpus. The editors, a large number of people whom I cannot mention by name, unfortunately, but thank you all for the work you do, have also included now for this edition detailed coverage of the Female Genital Mutilation Act 2003, as amended by the introduction of the recent 2015 Serious Crime Act. Very glad that they have. It's a pity that they're still not really dealing with this issue properly, but at least it's a step in the right direction. The inclusion of this date is interesting in view of the 2015 legislation in Canada, aptly entitled Zero Tolerance for Barbaric Cultural Practices Act, known as the Zero Tolerance Act, which is long overdue. Also new in the Red Book, I'm not going to say any more than that, except make the point, but what is new also for the Red Book this year are the updated notes on the new offence of breaching the Forced Marriage Protection Order. Again, we're back to similar sort of thing about the problems females are facing. And there are other developments, including same-sex parenting and reporting restrictions. So it's nice to see that we're getting a little bit more emphasis coming in these areas. And that's coming not from the government or anybody else, it's coming from us as practitioners, because that's what we're dealing with. And I hope that the politicians and all the other people realise that we're the people at the coalface dealing with these issues. We need to know where we're going to be going with it, because we've got to deal with the clients. I know the judges do, but we do as well. Now, for the benefit of the time-pressed practitioner, this volume, which is over 3,300 pages, yes, it remains very heavy. I've said, don't drop it on your foot. It contains a copious amount of research resources, including tables of statutes, statutory instruments, cases, and PDs. The CPR, the FPR, and the Supreme Court Practice Directions PDs. So we've got a lot in it. And I did like the fact that it's got actually an extract of CPR. Just straightforward stuff, very useful. I needed it as a cross-reference, and I found it very useful to have that, so thank you. The book's constituent 6 parts consist of procedural guides, statutes, procedure rules, practice guidance, European material, and more precise, with accompanying commentary throughout and an extensive index. Also, I think it's worth checking out the resources online. There's a 14-day free trial and the additional benefits of the ebook facility. I don't know where we're going at the moment with IT, because there are going to be very big changes taking place clearly. But I think we're right in the middle of the old paper version at the moment still, and the big changes that are going to take place probably in the next 2 to 3 years, or perhaps longer. But certainly there's a long-term plan for some very substantial changes in the way the civil jurisdiction and family law are dealt with. I mean, it'd be lovely to go into all the courts with a touch screen when you go in, to key all the details in and at least move things ahead, because it's an emotional time for all, and the easier it is for everybody, I think, the better. Let me conclude by saying this, because I love the book and it's really superb. It's just what you need, something you do need to know your way around to. It is small wonder then that the Red Book has emerged as the standard and ultimate work of reference on family law, and is therefore regarded as an essential purchase for the family law practitioner. You've got to have it if you're going to practice in this area. It's as simple as that. You should be able to get copies occasionally in some of the bigger libraries, and of course at court they do have copies which, if you ask them nicely, they hopefully will let you look at if you need anything particular. The publication date for this particular edition is May 2015, and I'm recording it later in the year 2015. There's the book there, then the spine. These are the people who've done the work. Let me just open it in the middle. This is actually the family procedure rules. You can see what you've got here. You have the rules, and you've got an awful lot of information, as to be expected, just like the green book or the white book. You have all the information with the cases, and then it actually has a lot of commentary about everything that you need to know concerning the specific rules. I can't take any particular, I'll take one example, Mackenzie Friends. There we go, there's a lot of detail there about Mackenzie Friends. This is actually rule 12.21. Can I just say, 21 rather, can I just say with Mackenzie Friends, there's a big debate about them at the moment, and that's not going away. Just one last thing, this more of the family procedure rules again there. You can see the structure. Then at the back you've got, as I say, European material. Then you do have what is a really superb index. I think it's one of the best indexes I've actually seen, because it really does have everything you need. And there's a nice little bit of it does try to identify what the questions are that you would be asking for. Then at the front you do of course have the content, so you should be able to find things pretty easily. Thank you to all concerned. Again, Family Law and Jordan's have come up with a first class book here, so thank you. Bye bye.